Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning, Deborah Leanne.
Suzanne has a new voice this morning. No more crackles.
No more crackles. So
And
good.
yes, so good. And I'm glad we figured out which microphone was doing that. But for all of y'all out there that might be wanting a little bit of quieter, calmer conversation, we now have the non-crackle Suzanne to be contributing here. So
Hooray,
talk
hurrah.
about our topic today, because this has been this is I can't even. Okay, start. Just start.
Okay. So this week's topic is the 57th Gene Key out of the Gene Key book by Richard Rudd. And this is moving from unease to clarity through the gift of intuition. And this is called the gentle wind.
That I like. That
Yeah.
makes more sense to me. Well, I maybe there's so much about unease that uh once I have, and you too, once we've gotten more aware of what our bodies are doing and saying and what energy is flowing through us, not even all ours, it's collective, right? But the
Right.
especially since COVID, the unease is, you can almost feel it in the air, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's palatable.
it is. And you can see it in the driving. My daughter's back in the country and she's driving the other day with me and she goes, "What is it about the drivers here?" I go, "They're angry. Everybody's angry." And she goes, so she noticed it from coming from another country, how we are blatant, not following. I mean, there's been a lot of speeding always, like who followed the speed limit, but going through red lights and, like when there's a walk, not waiting for the pedestrians, just turning anyway. I mean, just crazy stuff. And what I want to know is this unease, now that I'm aware of it and feeling it, how do you, versus I used to just hold it and I didn't know how to process it, and I still have scars on my body. Like I have a cracked tooth in my mouth that the dentist just filed down. She's like, it should be fine. Well, now my tongue is creating a, like a scar tissue or whatever, because it runs along that sharp edge all the time. And it's
Oh,
just a reminder to me. There it is. There it is. There's that unease,
mm,
you know? And so when I relax my tongue and my mouth, then I don't have to play that game. But the nervous tendency is to run the tongue along the tooth,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
Right.
So what I'm curious about is, what are some practices that you use when you're sitting in your unease?
Well, first of all, it's kind of going back to that fear. And you mentioned that it's collective fear. Just want to just say that mm, each one of us plays a role to that adds to the collective.
Oh yeah.
And we act like tuning forks. And that's why you feel so much. It's like when the vibration is palatable, because you're feeling everything. Um, it's so much more, it's so important that you get into your own frequency and raise that above the collective frequency, because you are the one that's going to help shift, for a better word, shift um, the collective frequency.
And I know that. I know that conceptually,
Right,
intellectually, and my heart wants that too, but my
right.
body is
Well,
the
there's,
is the final foreground, or the, what do you
yeah,
call it, like the final frontier, to to navigate with this. And so that's where this is where my centering, this is where I
Yeah.
breathe, this is where I uh, do a lot of nothing. Sometimes I sit and look outside, or I
Yeah.
sit and watch the wall, the way the light plays on the wall, the sunlight through the windows. To me, it's like I can drift into a bigger space when I get out of my own discomfort. But when I'm focusing on my discomfort, thinking I need to get out of my discomfort or
Right.
unease,
That's it makes it worse.
right, which is where I know. So where I'm curious about is I know that I know how to shift it within me. And I
Right.
also know that when we're together, there's times where we can create it within the relationship too.
Right.
However, that's a whole nother story. I have a great one about that from the weekend. However, to get to that place of intuition, there's to me that feels like a bigger leap. Normally I can see the shadow just kind of softening into the gift.
Hmm.
And this one I'm like, okay, unease to intuition. I'm having a
It's a big leap,
I'm
right?
having a
So,
brain fart around that because it's just not connecting. So,
okay.
excuse my language.
No, that's okay. Well, let's where do I want to go? This is one of the four keys of the ring of matter, right? So there's
It's the final
four,
one, isn't it?
it's the
Like the
final
last
one.
one of the
Right. So this is the gestation part that we all kind of were born into. Think about being in the primordial soup of your mother's womb, okay? And you're getting information from that space. That can feel probably a little bit uneasy because you don't know what's going on. And all you hear is sound. You don't hear words. I mean, you may hear words, but you're really connecting to the sounds. So part of it is it's developing our like early warning systems in there. And the part is we want to start creating some kind of security, right? But in
yeah.
reality, the security lies within our own beingness and our own bodies and listening to it. That's part of the ring of matter. And what we're getting to do is that's to really understand that all fear is an old like old loop
Yeah.
that's caused by our mind. It's
It's
not the
that
true essence of our being. It's caused by the like the mammalia or the like
amygdala. Yeah,
of yeah,
the old reptilian brain,
right.
which
So the thing that causes the oh my god, because what you're doing is you're focusing on the future instead of being right here, knowing that it's
all
you're
is
sitting
well.
in a chair, you're listening to Deborah and I, and you're okay. Like
Yeah,
you're
that
okay.
constant and I've been playing with that, especially in this last month of all of the emotions around the upcoming, family stuff. And I keep telling my body, especially because the rest of me knows it, my soul
Right.
knows it, my heart knows it. I am safe. We are
Right.
safe. I am safe. And it just helps if I put my hands on my body, on my heart, and on my belly,
Yeah.
and just cueing that.
And I will say I had one of those I was just feeling a lot this weekend and then I was like, okay, it's time for me to disconnect from that collective energy. And I went in isolation for 4 days and just listened to my body because my body was like, tune out, tune back into me. And I think most of the time we don't listen to our bodies.
No.
Um, it knows best to how to heal. Literally, I've been going through a lot of physical healing right now. So when I tuned in this morning, I was I'm feeling called to bring up this book that might be of use to anybody listening. But this particular key is dealing with the ganglia, It's our parasympathetic system. And so accessing the healing power of the vagus nerve.
Oh, the vagal nerve is,
Yeah. And
I'm
so
so in love with that nerve.
this is written by Stanley Rosenberg.
Yeah, and
And
we'll put that
we'll put that in the
in the
link.
notes. Yeah.
Um, so those are some self-help exercises for anxiety, depression, trauma, and autism that may be of use if you're experiencing those. I mean, I do a lot with breath work. I do a lot with drawing, art, sound. I usually tone a lot during those times where I can feel that things are needing to move
Yeah.
out of me, and I'm accepting new frequencies in. So
Yeah. And I
that's
think there's something
that's
about toning that really turns on. So the vagal nerve, just for those of or vagus nerve that aren't familiar, um it is the nerve that attaches our brainstem to the spinal cord. So it's basically like your router in your house. It's what sends the electrical, the energy into all the directions it needs to go. So when it's not operate or fully engaged, some of the I and you worked with that chiropractor that I've gone to too. One of the things that she taught me, and she would make me do it all the time because she knew I was out of balance, is she would say, so practice with your eyes staying looking straight at me, but send your eyes all the way as far as they can go to the left.
mm-hmm,
And so you allow that peripheral vision to be stretched and stretched. And how far back can you see? How far over can you see? And breathe. And then you do it all the way over this way. And doing this 2 or 3 times in each direction brings both lobes of your brain, and it activates the vagal nerve. So it's like this. And what I used to tell my coaching clients is then we have both our logical and our creative sides of our brain engaged, so
mm-hmm.
that it allows us to see when we get nervous or we're in fear based, we hyper focus on what's
Right,
right there, and we can't see all
right.
this possibility and potential. So thank you for bringing that up, and I'm so glad we'll be able to provide that as a resource to people. So
Yeah,
that's what opens intuition.
yeah,
When we're just relaxing all of that stuff that's going on, it's there. It's
right.
just turning on the tap and then we've got it.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the repressive nature of this part of us. It's when our intuition is suppressed by the power of our mind, when our thinking mind,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's trapped by worries. You're unable to feel any kind of certainty or clarity in the moment, and commit to anything because you're just like, so just be aware of that. And then the reactive nature is that you're impetuous. You're like making quick decisions, and you're not like sitting with clarity. You're moving from fear. So
Yeah, I call that like the fire hose. Like, got to put out the fire, got to, oh, there's another fire. And so,
yeah, right,
versus,
right,
oh, what's causing the fires? What
yeah,
if we didn't feed the fire?
yeah. And so then once you see the fear, I mean, it's like that's part of the part that we get to really see beyond that illusion, that it's just, again, fear for fear itself. And so it it's what's there to help awaken us to
So,
a new reality.
so I have a question, because when we get into the gift, he talks about the sin field, SYNFIELD. I know synergy, I know synarchy, I know that term in a lot of other ways. I have never heard of sin field. SYNFIELD. So my imagination, which is so much better than my brain, I mean, or just my mental faculties, but to think beyond and tap into what else what other intelligence we have access to feels like it's a very rich, fertile ground for intuition. Is
Yeah.
that your understanding?
Well, yeah, it's beyond the five senses. It's your sixth sense. And we all have different modes in how we operate and build that muscle.
Hmm.
So it's some people are clairaudient, some people and some people have developed all of these senses and they're
Yeah,
super tuned in, right? So some people can see colors, some people can, hear stuff, some people like feel it in their bodies.
that's me. Clairsentient is what
Yeah.
I've heard it is called.
Some are clairgust or gustant, so you can taste things. I know it's
Ah,
I mean, it's so amazing when we tap into that field because your body you're tuning in to all various different energies and it's making you aware of stuff that is in the unseen, but you feel it. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you just know it. That's what the clairs are. It's being able to see clearly in a different way. It's your inner compass. And that is your most powerful superpower, and that's the natural guidance system. We trusted it a lot more before we started really getting into our brains.
I think about young people. They never, pretty much, it is rare to get in the car with somebody who doesn't have their GPS on. They always can tell you, oh, I'm 18 minutes till I reach you, or whatever, Miranda and I had a fight the other day when she was driving us back from downtown because she's like, oh, it says to go this way. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. We want to take this highway. That one takes us directly home. And so we had to go around. Anyway, I get a little annoyed that people don't trust they have lost their ability to be able to sense direction. Look at the sun and go, "Oh, that must be
Right.
west because it's going down over there," or
Right.
no. And I'm
Yeah.
where I'm. I mean, I guess that's the best way I can think of is how we've decided to rely on other technology versus our own brilliant technology to solve our problems. And we do that with, well, I'll just say coffee is one. But I mean, there's a lot of other things that we just kind of like, take the medicine, take the painkillers, take the just go along with it. I don't know. I'm this is where I get lost in the how
Mm,
much do we allow ourselves to guide ourselves and where do we allow the science and technology to be the way to go?
hmm.
I guess we feel into it and intuition would tell us, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's connecting your intuition and then your mind is there to put it into action. So I think it's a balance of masculine and feminine. It's when we get into the thinking and we get hyper like diligent with crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's instead of like listening to our heart. It's like,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah,
And I know that because I've been there, right? So then you over hyper analyze things rather than going with your instincts or your
yeah,
what I call your intuition. I mean, I during the past 7 years have been really diving deep into developing that superpower. I mean, I think I've had it all along, but I think that my focal point has been tapping into I call it my SGS, my spiritual guidance system, but it's your natural guidance system and that each person has their own. Like you can't,
like I
I
can't
know,
tell
do it.
you what's the best thing for you,
Right,
which
right,
is where this whole thing about spiritual teachers,
right,
if they are really good,
right,
they are good at asking the questions so that you do your own discovery of what do I want, where do I want to go. And
right,
I am not your guru.
right. And that's the thing that, we're all there for one another, but we're not there to tell you what to do. I know, because I always constantly was searching for the answers outside myself, hoping that somebody else had the answer. Come on, make it fast. Like looking at my watch, like, can
Yeah.
someone figure this out for me?
And yeah, and then how can we sit with it when that was
Right.
that whole
That,
shadow of uncertainty, right? Of sitting
right,
with the unknown, and that's what creates healing for me. Sometimes when
right,
I need to understand why this rash is happening or why this is
right.
going on or what, it is such, I had to try to explain it to my electrical engineering partner, and I was like, "What do you call it where electricity can't go because it's like," he goes, "Noise." I said, "That's it.
Yeah.
It's the frenetic energy around that keeps the electricity from being, grounded and true and powerful." And,
Nice.
yeah, once we
I
got
like that.
there,
I like that analogy.
it was once we had that conversation of what's in the way
Right.
of our genius, our, co-creative powers, that we get, and I can tell because we get into the hyper critical, very logical brain type of thing where it's all about what's wrong, what needs to be fixed, versus the expansion, which is like, what is right in this moment? Where is the love in this moment? I mean, as soon as we open to that,
Yes. Sorry. Yeah,
no, that's what happens.
I know. Well, as
We really
Richard,
haven't been drinking this morning. And
I
honest to God,
know.
I want people to know we really do these early in the morning. So,
Yes. And as Richard says, if we humans can attune ourselves to the gentler, subtler internal voice, we'll finally begin to feel physically at ease.
and
Because
that is,
it's the subtle bodies, right? So it's the causal body. We're tuning into that space.
I
And
keep,
every time we trust our intuition or make a decision based on it, I'm going to continue reading it. You raise the frequency of your whole aura. And again, that's your tuning fork. That is, as you raise that, you're affecting other people around you in a very positive way.
and magnetic to more of that light and good.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I don't know what I was going to say that was so important earlier, but that just struck me as how important we are. And you went back to us being tuning forks. And I used to always call you a salt lamp because, people would invite you to things because you were like, why did they need me to be there? And I'm like, because your presence is healing and
Mhm.
soft and uh opening, and it's like it creates sacred space, right? You're a beautiful sacred space holder, which allows them to go through whatever they need to go through. And this is where I get so lost in how do you and I, as spiritual energy practitioners, for no other, I don't know how to describe us, but how do we explain what we do for others? We actually just hold the space for them to remember their genius, their brilliance, right? Their
Yep.
purpose, their vision. And it's not like we create it for them because we don't.
No.
We just love them into remembering themselves or their love or whatever that is for them.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love, so okay, now I can see how the unease gets in the way of intuition. But intuition sometimes is a little not clear. Tell me how in your mind that blossoms into clarity.
Well, I it again, it comes from that tuning fork analogy, right? So we move from our intuition into the art of living a very soft, supple life. And you then recognize it also is, I think, is related to time. You realize that when you tap into that space of expansion and seeing beyond,
The sin field.
Yeah, this now, you recognize that everything is now. Um, you can sometimes intuit what the future holds. And
Okay.
you can when you do that, then you can your body like relaxes because you can then mm, feel into yourself more deeply, recognizing that this is only a moment in time and that you're all right. Much like when you even look at your past, and sometimes I've done this with clients where I say, I want you to identify all the various times in your life where you felt like supercharged and super on it. Like you've done this before.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a matter of remembering, okay, I'm a pretty powerful person. I I have done a lot of stuff in my life. So let's celebrate those wins.
Yeah. And
Okay.
remember that how capable and creative and uh, magnetic to those kinds of experiences we can be. I love that he calls this clarity because I'm thinking like I have the gene key that's omniscience, that goes into the being
Hmm.
able to. So I'm like that. I was trying to distinguish between omniscience and clarity. Clarity and he calls it the art of softness. And that has been a mantra for me for the last 3 or 4 years. Soften and open, soften and open. So it is this constant allowing what is here to be amazing and beautiful and love versus fighting what is and wanting to label it as wrong and broken. And you know what I mean? And we can go there so easily with our,
Oh yeah. And because there's so much external noise. And
I
that's
love
this is
that.
the yeah, I mean, that's why it's so important for each one of us to do our own work and to be so aware of what is also, you can decipher. It's the discernment between what's yours, what really truly is what you're working through versus what is in the collective field. And so I believe that when you reach that clarity, I mean, there is no fear anymore. You're not in a state of fear. It's constantly in a spheric state of just knowing consciousness. You're in that divine presence.
And it's trusting
Hmm.
that no matter what life throws at you, that we've got this. I think, um, especially in leadership development, they feel like they need to know it all and they need to know how to handle what's going to. I said, first of all, we don't know what's going to happen. Did you predict COVID-19? You know, and they're like, I said, so if you don't know
Right.
certain things, how would you know that you've got the abilities and the trust and the collective genius of your team to make the right decisions? And that is where you just, I think, soften and relax into allowing the information to come through.
And
I am liking this clarity thing.
yeah, the clarity, I also like this quote that Richard has is clarity is the realization that everything is linked through gentleness.
That's what I was going to say earlier.
Mm.
Those 4 pillars, I can feel a some kind of artwork coming through me that is about the body in holding the 4 pillars, the gentleness, patience, um, contemplation, and inquiry, you know, and how to hold those softly in a somatic way. So I'm wanting to create some kind of mantra for each one, for each part of these energy centers. So stay tuned. Who knows when that'll get done? But I can feel there is something really palpable about taking those 4 pillars, because look at how gentleness, it is not, when you can you think of an example of what life shows us that's gentleness? I mean, if you're reading the news, you're watching a television show, do you see much examples or samples of gentleness out there? Yeah. More, please.
More of that. And what I have in my notes, and I don't know where this came from, maybe it came from one of his talks, but it's using our body as the philosopher's stone.
Oh,
Like this is the body of work. It's all within us. Earth, air, fire, water, right? And um, honoring that and knowing that there is no fear because there is no tomorrow, and therefore there is no death. And this is clarity. We know that we're continually on this path, and this is the eternal now.
oh man, I love that.
And so, can we relax into that? Can we feel that in our bodies and feel, just put your hand on your heart and feel,
And on your belly.
and on your belly, and feel that love of self, of
And
oneness.
that is a beautiful place for us to stop, because I feel like if somebody wants to go deeper with that feeling of being in their bodies and enjoying that center of beauty and clarity, whew,
Hmm.
welcome home.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening today. Comments are welcome. We look forward to seeing you next time.